private video on my YouTube, and then I just pull the video and pull the audio, and then sync up the audio that I'm going to have you send me, and sync up my audio to this this version that YouTube's recording. I just don't like using the YouTube recording because it's like super compressed and really bad sounding.
No, it definitely does. Yeah, because I did, like I said, I did mine over the air too, because I set it up all like that way, and I just stripped the MP3, and you could definitely at least on the other end he was using a microphone, so it wasn't that bad.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I definitely had echoes and stuff like that. But you definitely noticed the difference.
Yeah, and that's why I have this is just a nice sync point between the two audio, the two different audio tracks, and then just and just in case like something should happen to like my recording on my end or your recording on your end, we have this as a backup too. Worst comes to worst.
Okay, so do I press record at a certain time point, or?
Just whenever. I'm recording right now, so it's not a big deal whenever, as long as before we start actual going into it.
Okay. I mean, I think we could just jump into it. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, more or less, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to hit record right now, okay?
All right, cool.
All right, whenever you're ready, Chris.
All right, cool. So you heard the previous episode. Have you heard any of the other episodes?
I have not. I wanted to come into it fresh without having like a bias or having something, or having a way to act.
Right, cool. So basically, we're just gonna jump right in. It's not gonna be any kind of like we're back, we're with whatever. I explain all that in the pre-section of the show. Explain who the guest is, what they do, all of that kind of stuff, and then we just kind of jump into the conversation. So I guess the first thing that I'm gonna say is life in New York. Is it what is it like? Is it the typical what you see is New York, or is it different? Or what part of New York are you in?
Well, right now I'm in the suburbs of New York, so I'm about 35 minutes out.
Mm-hmm.
So then that question is great because that question is multifaceted, right? Because, right now I'm 33. So I grew up in Queens, New York. I was born and raised in Queens. And then I lived in downtown Manhattan for about 3 to 4 years, right? When I was about between 21 and 24.
Right.
So New York was very different. Even when I was a kid, you would go to the city and whatnot. These were the days when, you would probably hear it, oh, you're a tourist, you're going to get mugged when you get out the train or stuff like that, right?
Right.
That was true back then, like way back then. Not when I was living in downtown, but when I was a kid, that was true. You know what I mean? So now it's and even when I was there between 21 and 24, you could see everything starting to get, because this was after 9/11 and whatnot.
Right.
But you can see, this life is starting to come back. People started avoiding New York at that point. So then you could see people starting to come back or whatnot. It's getting gentrified. Now it's super gentrified. Manhattan, unless you're rich or unless you're doing really, really well, because I was doing well back then. So in regardless, but it was fine because I was with my girlfriend at the time. But right now you have to be doing really well to live in Manhattan, per se.
Yeah, that's the thing that I can't stand about the cities, man, is like is being not rich and being like, well, I guess you can't live there. I mean, I lived in like I mentioned before we started recording, I lived in California briefly. But when I say lived, I was stationed out there in the Army, and so I wasn't really paying rent. But we just go like off base and into any of the into the city. We lived close to Monterey, and anytime that we'd go out there, it's just like the prices were insane on everything. And I can't understand how people make that kind of money to live in these like little tiny houses where they're talking about, oh, it's this 2-bedroom house and it's only $250,000. I'm like, only? No. So yeah, I can't stand that kind of stuff happens to the real nice cities where a lot of things are happening. It's just you can't afford to do those things anymore, it seems like.
Yeah, and not only that, and I'll go back to the California thing because I stayed in California for about 3 months. I stayed in LA. But for any of your listeners, anybody who's listening, New York City is not just Manhattan. New York City is 5 boroughs, right? So you have your Queens, you have your Brooklyn, you have your Bronx, you have your Staten Island, which nobody cares about or goes. So you guys don't have to remember that. You have your Manhattan. Like Staten Island is where no one cares about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people who work in Manhattan, they live in one of the boroughs, you know what I mean? And since there's a great train system down there, you could live in, like, say, a part of Queens and get to Manhattan in 25 minutes, half an hour. So, and it's significantly cheaper. So that's what a lot of people tend to do, right?
Right.
And so that's how people make it work. But like I said, I live downtown. I used to live right by Wall Street. But everybody has to remember, like, $50,000 in like the midsection of the country or stuff like that is $75,000, $8,000 in the city.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it, and that's one of the nicer things about living out here, living here in Idaho, is the cost of living. I've mentioned with a few different guests, you know, the cost of living out here is slowly starting to climb, just because we're getting the residual effects of California kind of starting to branch out a little bit because it's getting a little bit full. But in general, the cost of living out here, not terribly high. I mean, you got a couple cities out here. You've got Boise, which is the capital of Idaho, is really expensive to live in. And then you got like Star, Idaho is starting to climb up there, Eagle, Idaho. But this is like those like three places are where the majority of the wealth in the state seems to be concentrated. So it's the same thing. It's starting out here. It's just starting to get more and more spendy. You know, a $150,000 house even 5 years ago is nothing like what it is today.
But you know what? Let me let me tell you about it too. People are gonna wise up at one point in time. People are gonna be like, you know what? Fuck this city shit. Right? Yeah. I'm gonna go live in like Idaho. Because if I could do different, I'd live in a trailer for a long time before like I moved anywhere. I would just save my money, do what I have to do, because you know, it's yeah, there's a good living in the city. Yeah, depending, you know what I mean, what kind of person you are, because I grew up in a city, so it's a little bit different. Like I get angrier faster than most people.
Yeah.
And I'm very cynical. And you know, I don't mind hearing like F you, F this all the time. Like, you know what I mean? I embrace that.
Right. Well,
so,
see, oh, go on.
Yeah, no. So yeah, no. I was just gonna say, like, it's like living in New Hampshire. I said I was living there for like 4 years, and I'll tell you a story when I broke down in Idaho for that week. I'll tell you that afterwards. But yeah, no, go ahead. What were you saying?
Oh, I was just saying it is, and that's kind of a bit of the problem too, is people are starting to say fuck this city shit. But unfortunately, it's not like, you know, fuck this city shit, I'm gonna go move to a more rural place because it'll be cheaper. Yeah, until you get there, and then you make it more expensive. For whatever reason, people who live in the city come out here and they start businesses that were confined to big cities before, and so now it starts upping the property value, and then everything gets more expensive, and then suddenly it's no longer cheap and affordable to live in the rural areas because the people from the coast have started moving inward.
Oh yeah, that's why you got to have like a cardboard box program or something, right? You have to have people live like you have to have people live really shitty for like a year or two for them to like really appreciate like the life they have. Like that's what I've noticed. Yeah,
I was telling my wife about that just the other day. We were talking about that. We were talking about, because we were listening to the radio, and I always try not to do this, but it always ends up coming to this. I don't like talking about politics too much because I love talking about politics. But we're talking about just these people who are like, you know, oh, should not raise the minimum wage, and we don't need to do that. And I'm like, well, these people who are talking about that kind of stuff have never lived, you know, minimum wage. I was telling her, I said, I have the best idea for a TV show, and that is that we should get these people who make, you know, a couple $100,000 a year, and we should have them move to a small, like 1 or 2 bedroom apartment. So you're welcome. We already got you through the first step, which is saving up for your deposits and stuff. We already got you past that. But now you have to live full-time minimum wage and see how you do, and for like 2 or 3 months. And that would be the best show to watch these people who sit there and go, you know, be raising the minimum wage. Those people are just lazy and need to work harder. You should try it, because it's not so easy.
Yeah, and you know, it's not only that too. It's basically like, because everybody has to remember, and even to go back into politics, because like, you know, New York is like solid blue, right? New Hampshire could be it could be a toss up depending, because it's a swing state, so it depends. Yeah. But people are hardcore red out there too, where I was anyway. Everybody lives in their own echo chamber for the most part, right? Everybody oh yeah, this, because like I mean, like for instance, immigration and like minimum wage and all that shit. If you look at them, right? If you look at it properly with a lens, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I own 10 Wendy's or Burger Kings, I don't give a shit about immigration
Right.
because I pay these guys $8, $9. I don't want to fucking pay a kid like $11 or whatever, and he sucks at his job and he's late all the time because these people are loyal to their job. They work harder than anybody. You know what I mean? And then you don't have to pay them. So
Yeah.
if you look at it from that perspective, like, yeah, I don't care. They're not gonna speak up because you're pretty much exploiting people in a way, but you're not exploiting them if you look at the other side because they're making way more than they would be. And
Yeah.
plus they don't want to fucking go back to wherever the fuck they were.
Yeah, and that's what drives me so crazy is I'm like, well, my mother's actually the one who taught me this, which was, early on in my life, she's very very much a Democrat, myself as well, as much as you can identify. I mean, it's not like black and white, but whatever.
And race wise, it is.
But she told me, she said, never speak bad about immigrants, because you got to think about it is exactly what you were saying, that these people are making, they're working shit jobs, and to them they're making so much money. And she said, this country is like a huge flashing sign that says opportunity and that says, feed your family. But then they come over here to do that, and then we go, yeah, we'll hire you to work garbage jobs that no one else wants to work, and we'll pay you what in your mind is a great income. And then they're like, oh great, I'm gonna come over here. And then they come over here and we go, get the fuck out, we hate you. No, get out of here, knock that off. It just, and I always try to talk to I have a few family members who are living in Idaho. This is quite a red state. And I have quite a few family members who very much ascribe to hardcore Republican views. And I've tried telling them things like, they're like, oh, I hate immigrants, I can't stand illegal immigration, and I'm like, well, we need them. I know personally, I can't afford to shop at Whole Foods every day for my groceries. And so I rely on illegal immigrants who will work, for next to nothing, because I can't afford to eat if they're not doing that. And so I will never be someone who's saying we need to kick illegal immigrants out of this country. And I've told all my family members, I'm like, you go shop at one of these places where it's going to cost you $50 for a bag of apples and a pound of ground beef, and you do that for a month. And then if you can do that, by all means, talk all the shit you want. But if you can't, shut up.
Yeah, I go the other way. It depends who I'm talking to. Like if I'm talking to like a Democrat, I say, yo, we need to kick all these illegal immigrants out, man. Right? If I'm talking to a Republican, I go, oh, yo, man, we need to raise taxes on the rich people, man. We need to give these immigrants money, man. So it's gotten to that level of absurdity. Because even when you talk about immigrants, a lot of people don't know the stats or the other side of immigrants. What about the immigrants that come to this country and they build our country for us? They're the scientists, yeah. They're the doctors, they're the engineers. We have a shortage in this country, and they don't talk about that part. That's why Silicon Valley keeps talking about, yo, you got to fix this immigration problem because we need more engineers, we need more developers, we need more all this stuff because you motherfuckers don't want to do it.
Right, and that's what it is. They when's the last time you saw Jeff working out in the field? When was the last time that John was picking fruit? Or
another thing. Ready for this? What's I believe this is the last time I read this stat. So it's been a long time. I think 50% of Fortune 500 companies were built by either immigrants or their children.
That's not surprising in the least. They're the hardest working people because they have a reason to work hard. It's not easy to get over here. And that's the other thing, people act like they're just like, oh yeah, they just walk across the border, no big deal. No, it's a little bit more work than that.
Like, for instance, I'm a first generation American, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm Haitian, right? So yeah, I walk bare feet and shit. I don't care, right? You know what I mean? Right. So outside, I don't have a problem, right? I'm a very stereotype guy, by the way. Racial, racist? No, I don't know. I'm a very stereotype guy. I'm independent, but no. Like, my mom's a doctor. She knows like 4 different languages. Like, she had to immigrate to this country. My dad did real estate and stuff, did all kinds of shit when he came here like they had to bust their ass, and they came illegally.
Yeah.
Right. So I understand people's gripes with the illegal versus not illegal and shit like that. So I understand that. But like, when people are so passionate about something, don't come at me. You don't know anything about anything, right? Like I love it when people will come at you and be like, okay, yeah. Like, do you even know why we have immigrants here? Like, do you know why they can just walk right over the border? Because they make people a lot of money. If they were really fucking us up, we don't allow shit in this country to happen. It was gonna fuck rich people up.
Oh, exactly. And it's like you said a minute ago with the your Wendy's analogy, you know, and I've tried telling this to people too. I'm like, why are you mad at the immigrants? If you don't like that they're coming over here and whatever, why aren't you mad at the guy who manages the Wendy's? He's the one who hires them, you know? And it's the same. I feel like so much of this whole political discourse on both sides even is just misplaced anger. You know, everybody's mad at the wrong people.
I don't know about you, but my wife is going to be a child of an immigrant. I don't care what color. I don't care what the fuck what she is. She could be a purple fucking moose. I don't give a fuck, right? But if she is like, obviously, I'm not talking in solid terms here, but the child of an immigrant has way different values than somebody born in America, right? And the only reason being is because if you're the child of an immigrant and you even start to fail, your parents don't support you. They say you're a piece of shit. Did you know that? Right? And you can't feel bad about yourself or sorry, right? Because they tell everybody what a piece of shit you are. And they say, look at this person and that person and this person. They're doing so much better than you, you piece of shit. Let me help you do whatever you got to do. But the thing is, they start that shit like at 3 years old.
Right. Well, I obviously can't speak to it myself, but from what I hear, all of the stories that you hear about, like, a child of an immigrant starts doing, whatever that's wrong, and the parents always pull the line of, I didn't go through X, Y, and Z to get here so that you could just fuck around all day, and so I think that is where you see that kind of work ethic, is in that parents who are like, it wasn't easy to get over here, asshole. So knock it off.
Yeah, it's all a perspective, and that's another thing too. When I say like racial or racist or stereotypes, if there's catchphrases out there, right, and there's like people that make you like for instance, I'll say like a black one, since I'm black, like, oh shit, you better not do that, you'll go to jail. Like, and people are like, ha ha ha, because that shit might be true. You know what I mean? Like, right. So catchphrases are kind of true. Like when you say, okay, like Mexicans work hard, they fucking do.
Yeah. That's I see that all the time. That's where my family comes from, actually. So I totally feel you. And the same thing where they're like, oh, Mexicans drink a lot. Yeah, they do.
Yeah, and depending on what part of the neighborhood you are, you will get robbed by a thug, by a black thug. If he's black, I cross the street. You know what I'm saying? Like, shit, this don't look like a good part of the neighborhood. It's dark. This is Paterson, New Jersey, which is known for a bad place. You got to pick your battles. Just kind of like, like crossing down. Like when I was saying, I was doing the cross country trip between New York and California. There's some places I'm not going to stop because I'm not going to get lynched. Right? Obviously, I'm going over. I'm not gonna because I've heard the stories. People get pulled over and like all kinds of shit happens to them, and they take your shit. Like you know what? I just kept going. I kept going, and that's how I got stuck in Idaho. Actually, I got stuck in Idaho for a week because my tires melted. Because I just kept going, whatever. So I had like a performance car, like it was Volkswagen like R32, which is a pretty performance, and it was like 400 power horsepower, 430 horsepower. So then my tires were like melting and all this shit because I had 2 different size tires, the one in the back. It's supposed to be like a show type car, but I wanted to take it across the country. So right. I got stuck in Idaho, and let me tell you, I loved it over there. There was like a festival going on or whatnot. Like I spent my whole time outside and like mingling with people. Huh. Like I know it sounds weird because there's not that many black people there at all.
No, I was about to make a joke about that. I was actually to say that you probably added the population of black people in Idaho to maybe 6 while you were here.
They must have thought it was part of the festival.
What was going? Where do you know where you stopped at?
I was in the main. It was Omaha.
Omaha.
I believe it was Omaha. I'm pretty. No, not Omaha. Not Omaha. Where was it? Oh, what was it? Where was it in Idaho? Boise? I don't. All I know was we stopped there, and there was a festival type thing they do, and then there's a place like the roads are like kind of like stone, and I hope I do mean Idaho. I believe it was Idaho where I was. I hope it wasn't Omaha. Right, because then it's either one or the other. I think it was Idaho. It could have been Omaha though. Now that I think about it, because all this shit is the same to me, and it was so long ago. Like it was over 10 years ago. But basically, all I remember was there's no tall buildings. I was in the one like place where there's like maybe 3 or 4 tall buildings, and then you keep walking, and then there was the festival there, and then I think to the right they had like just like a little bit of row of stores. I think something like that, like some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe it was Idaho. But you know what? It's the same shit anyway, right?
Yeah,
I assume it's the same shit.
It was somewhere,
right? Not even that. I mean, demographic wise, it's probably the same thing,
right?
So I'm gonna actually ask. I'm gonna ask my girlfriend at the time, where the hell were we? And it's sad that I don't remember.
We'll add that in post where that was.
Yeah, so, and sorry guys for anybody listening, but my point is I mingled really well. Like I was the only black guy there. I mingled really well with everybody, talking to people, blah blah blah. So when are people racist? Of course. Were the people there racist? Fuck yeah, right? But it's like, okay, I know that. Now what?
Right.
It doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you do what you can, right? And make it to the next day, whatever. So I want to kind of shift gears here for a minute. I want to talk about some other things. For those who don't know, let you in a little bit on how the sausage is made. I have my guests email me beforehand with some interesting topics that they want to talk about, and we talk about them. And I want to kind of shift over. So your show is about your journey to lose weight. But before we get too into all of that, I want to start at an interesting place where I think a lot of really good conversation can come from, and that is how you talked about people's sensitivity to like the word fat and things like that. Personally, myself, I have mentioned on here before that I'm on a diet right now. I am 5'4" and I weigh 240 pounds, so I got some work to do. But what I wanted to talk to you about this for was because I actually just experienced the same thing. We just got a new doctor, and he was talking about, I have some knee problems from when I heard it in the Army. And he, I was talking to him, and he said, well, one of the things that might help you is, and I mean, I don't want to be rude about this, but I think, if you were to lose some weight, it might help. I'm like, that's not rude. That's true. Obviously. And so I think it's just kind of strange how people get kind of sensitive to that kind of stuff. And I wanted to get your opinion on that.
Well, that's another thing too, because like, and that's why I started my podcast, right? I started the podcast about 6-7 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's basically just because I'm 5'6", and my highest was 226 pounds.
Okay.
So I started like 6-7 weeks. Right now I'm about 170. So probably 175, 178. So basically I'm going to really ramp it up January 1st. And what I want to try to do is like, single digit body fat, get in amazing shape, all that shit that you see on television, like all that nonsense. So I'm just going to do a journey with that and just have people follow the journey over a year or two. But to get to your point with that, it's basically insane. That's all it comes down to. It's insanity, right? Because I don't even know how to explain it, or why, not even how to explain it. I know how to fucking explain it, right? I just don't know why it's happening. Because if you're a doctor and someone's obese and way overweight, right? And you can't tell them you're a fat fuck and you need to lose weight or you're going to die,
mm-hmm.
and you have to dance around and tiptoe around the topic, it's not, we've reached a place that we shouldn't be. And people say, no, but the thing is, I understand the other side, because you might have someone who's like fucking depressed. Right?
Yeah, I mean, there's reasons behind it, but for the most part, I mean, you can go all the way back to like maybe like a bad upbringing, family instilling like really bad habits into you. But where I stand on it is I'm a little bit on both sides. Where on one side I'm like, don't be so sensitive, knock it off, and on the other side I'm also, don't be an asshole about it. Like, if like I was saying with the doctor, you don't have to be like, oh, I think maybe, and I don't want to hurt your feelings, but I think if you maybe lost some weight, it would help with your knee. No shit.
That makes it worse.
But at the same time, I also don't want my doctor going, looking at my information on the computer and going, well, hey, you're a fat piece of shit, and that's why your knees are bad. So get on it, fat boy. No, don't do that either. It's fucking rude.
That's like if you ever had an Indian doctor, that's how they are. They're like, okay, you're fat, you need to lose weight. Every it depends what race and culture, but every doctor is different.
Right.
But
and that's why I mean that's how I end every episode of the show. I end with just the words "be decent," and that's my stance on everything. Just be decent, and that's where I stand on this one too. Is be decent.
I just looked at a map. It was Omaha, Nebraska. I wasn't in Idaho. It was Omaha, Nebraska. I take that back because I remember that was Omaha because we wanted to go to some place where we can get a proper tire and get it sent. So, and I remember I'm looking at the map and looking at the roads. It was Omaha. But anyway, I just wanted to put that in there. But anyway, so no, it's just like you're saying. Like, like looking from my perspective, right? Like my dad died in 2008, right?
Okay.
And I was really, really fucking fat. So then I haven't been, people didn't see me for like years, right? They saw me, right? Because I wasn't like that fat. So even at the funeral, they're like, you were a fat fuck. What the fuck? Like busting chops.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So for me, I'm the extreme opposite of the person like that's sensitive. Or like for me, I didn't even realize it until someone told me like, oh, this person's sensitive. I was like, I remember you're busting my chops at my dad's wedding. I mean, dad's funeral. like shit. Like, all right. Like, but at the same time, I do have empathy because it is a depressing thing for anybody. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Me included. And even at that point, like people busting your chops, like, fuck, you're just gonna have to put your head down on that one.
Well, yeah, and it becomes difficult at a certain point, when you hit a certain weight and you realize that you hit that weight, it can be difficult to kind of get that spirit to go, well, I'm going to turn this around instead of what kind of creeps in the back of your head where you're like, well, you're already here, and that's a lot of work. So you might as well just commit to this being your life now. And a lot of people do just kind of give into that. And then being an asshole about it, that's not going to motivate people to want to lose the weight. But at the same time, also being super sensitive, like walking on eggshells about it, that's not going to help either. It's all about, I think, realistic, but tactful, I think that's the biggest thing that a lot of people could, and not even just in this topic, but in life in general, I think what a lot of people could do with is picking up tact.
Well, this is the thing. Like first of all, for me, the way I lost it, I didn't work out that much. It was just the way I changed my eating habits and my drinking habits. So that's how I lost it pretty much. And I did it over time because like what I did was I decided to pick up another hobby while I was doing that. So I don't even have to focus on that part. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, fuck, I'm going to play the ukulele. And then I'm worried about the ukulele. I'm not worried about my diet as much because, I'm fucking doing a ukulele. So that's just an example. But everybody is different, right? Some people, you need to shame them.
Right.
Some people, that works very well for some people to be shamed. Some people, it works well for motivation. Like for me, I don't like motivation. When people give me motivational speeches, for some reason, like when someone says, you can do it, I'm like, yeah, shut up. You know what I mean? But that's just how my mind works. You know what I mean?
Right.
But for some people, it works differently. So everything has to be adjusted. And the thing is, if something's not, the best thing that everybody can do is troubleshoot. If something doesn't work for you or you don't enjoy it, move on to something else. And the faster you can troubleshoot, the better off you'll be. Like if you don't like doing this exercise, do something else. If you don't like to exercise at all, don't. Eat well. But then figure out what your goal is and make it realistic. Don't tell me you're gonna look like fucking one of these superhero cocksuckers after taking steroids after 8 months with a team and all these people, and you're gonna look in Photoshop and you're gonna look like that, and you don't like even like, and you just eat whatever you want, and you still drinking mad soda. You got to be realistic at the same time. Right. So you always have to have somebody there to be like, and that's where I think tact does not belong in certain places of honesty, right? Like,
right. Well, no. See, I think that you're getting tact and sensitivity mixed up. Where like I said, what I mean by that, I guess, is be honest, but there's a big difference, you know, between and again, this is a case by case thing. There are some people who need and they know who they are, that they need like that whole getting your chops busted and stuff like that to get motivated. But I think the baseline to start is to just go, hey, you could stand to lose some weight. You know, you're a little overweight or you're overweight and you could stand to lose it. But starting at, hey, fat ass, get on the treadmill. No, fuck out of here. Like,
See,
I'm an adult. You come correct.
But
you know,
that's
you
the
don't
thing.
have to tell me.
It's kind of like how you told me, like I'm like mixing them together, right?
Right.
Like tact and sensitive, right? That's the problem. They are in the way people are handling it now. It's mixed together. Like that's the way everybody sees it. It's mixed together. You know what I'm saying? There has to be one or the other. There has to be if basically what I'm saying is there has to be both of these have to be not even close to being the same. Insensitive and tact don't even exist. It shouldn't even exist, right? You gotta like do away with both of them. So that's why it seems like it's like a mix up. If it's honesty, there's just honesty, and that's that. Do with it what you will. You know what I mean? So like for some people, when I say when the reason tact and sensitivity comes into play, it's like some people like you just like, for instance, if someone's suicidal, right? And you know they're suicidal, and you know this person's like ridiculous, and maybe you have the relationship with them where you do come with tact, and you do come with like insensitivity and stuff like that, and they already know you do. It's gonna hurt for you to be even honest or anything like that. So you already hurt that relationship in terms of you being honest and tactful, like, right? So a doctor has no relationship with you. Should not have that relationship professionally with anybody who's patients, right? So there is no tact. There should not be no sensitivity. It should be professional. That's it. Like, you are fat. This is the problem with being fat. You're overweight. You should lose weight to be healthy. You don't want to lose weight. This is going to happen to you. You'll probably die here. Your nasal blow out, blah, 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 blah. It's up to you what you want to do. You do with it what you will. But now, like, if you're like, say, for instance, for me, if I got like fat, 5-10 pounds fat, and a friend of mine didn't say, you fat fuck, and like bust my chops, right? I wouldn't really call him a friend of mine, because I expect that. And most people like talking to me, they expect that from me.
Right. And I think there is a fundamental difference in professional versus personal. You know, amongst my friends, it's the same way. You know, I'm not a sensitive person. So if I have some friends who are giving me shit for my weight, yeah, that's cool, because I'm probably going to give you shit for the fact that you can't grow a beard, whatever. But like my doctor, you know, I don't need my doctor going, oh, wow, you're really fat. Fuck off. You call me overweight. You know, you're a doctor. Be professional. But that's what I want. But at the same time, I don't want my doctor tiptoeing around the word overweight or the word obese. You know, it's a medical term, and let it be a medical term. But speak in medical terms is what I'm saying, I guess. You know, I guess know what's appropriate for the situation is where I am with it. You know, and especially with that personal relationships like you're talking about, it's a personal relationship. So you know what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. You know, if you have the kind of friends who can handle you giving them some shit, or if you have the kind of friends who maybe are a little bit more sensitive, and as a good friend, you know, you got to kind of accommodate that to a degree. Not like completely handle them with kid gloves, but you know how to, you know what I mean? It's hard to put into words, but
no, I think it's fairly easy. I mean, it's not, to me, it's not too complicated. It's like, it's a doctor, right? The doctor has no, and this is my opinion. Obviously, society doesn't see it as much, because, you know, we're all becoming pussified. I don't know what it is, you know, because I can actually get into certain things, but we'll put that to the side for a second. But their threshold should be, at best, the minimum, absolute minimum threshold is just being blunt and professional. That's the minimum. No sensitivity, nothing. That's not even allowed, right? Yes. That's the absolute minimum. If they want to go into like, oh, you fucking fat motherfucker, say something like that, they need to know that you're okay with it, and know that that's your personality and that's the relationship they need to have. You know what I'm saying? So right. Like,
I think we're on the same page. I think we're just having trouble putting it into words that we both agree with, but I think we're on the exact same page.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you, because if you don't have that relationship with him and he says that to you, that he's out of line.
Exactly.
But if you said that to me, I'd be like, we'll laugh. You know what I mean?
Right, and that's where we're at. You know, it is. I guess know the situation. That is where it is. And I think that's what tact is, because a lot of people also confuse that idea of tact as being, like, oh, you always have to be super polite. No, tact is just knowing what's appropriate for the situation. If the situation it's appropriate to call your friend a fat fuck, then call your friend a fat fuck, and that's tactful because you're friends. But if the situation is where that is not appropriate, then it's not tactful. So yeah, I think that we're on the same page.
I started noticing too, for me specifically, and this is like kind of off topic too. It's like they're trying to mix. They're trying to, like you seen like Star Wars Rogue One, shit like that, or like mobile games like Super Mario Hangouts just came out, stuff like that.
Right.
They're trying to mix all of society into one big ball to make money off of. And that is like for instance, you ever heard, like, you know how we're talking about actually mottos and shit that people say like honey, do I look fat? Like, ugh. For me, I'd be like, yes, right? But you're not supposed to. But a guy would never ask that, right? So now if you're making products with all that fucking emotion, all the hardcore emotion, sad emotion, this and that, and you're making products with all that shit in mind, you're gonna get a shitty product, but you're gonna maximize your profit.
Mm-hmm.
Like the problem with Super Mario Run that just came out, like it got like I think it got down to like more than Pokemon Go or something like that, right?
Wow.
Because it just recently came out, right. And then it has like 2.5 stars. Right, for two reasons. One, people say they let you play like three. They let you play like 3 worlds,
right? And then they charge you for the rest of it.
They charge you $10.
Jeez.
Right. So then, and then not only that, and people don't have a problem with that. Some people do, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
People say the game stinks because it's so damn easy. Like you just press a button and you jumps and it does everything for you. Because if you look at mobile gaming, that okay, let's do women involved in mobile gaming, let's do adults involved in mobile gaming, old people, let's do everything. So they're trying to capture everybody, and it's like, because I don't know if you remember fucking video games didn't come with a manual and that shit was so difficult.
Yeah. Or when they didn't come with, well, they not even the manual, but when they didn't come with a tutorial at the beginning, back when there was no hand holding. I remember one of the games that I always point to as in my opinion, the gold standard for what a video game should be was one of the first games that I remember investing entirely too much time into. And that was, I don't know if you ever played Morrowind, the Elder Scrolls game, but it was the gold standard for what a video game should be. It drops you into the middle of this world. It doesn't tell you how to do anything. You figure it all out. Every quest, there's no like, oh, go to this checkpoint and it'll be on the map. No, that just someone would tell you, hey, so I'm looking for this thing and it's in this general area. Just walk down the road till you get to the river and then follow the river to the 4th tree. You'll know where it is and just go there. And that is how they should be, real world is how these friggin' games should feel. They don't do that anymore because that's hard, and a lot of people don't want that. And so now, that goes right into what you're saying.
And guess what? You just explained the whole point of even why I brought it up. Exactly. What did they do? Just dropped your ass there. You got to figure it out. You got to do it. That's half the battle. That's how you get through shit. It's like that's like with anything, right? This is your fucking. You could even put it in life. This is your shit. We're gonna drop you here. Figure it out. Right? There's no sympathy. There's no nothing. Figure that shit out. But now we don't have that. Now we have oh my God, you feel a little bit even ticked off. Oh my God, you have this. And eventually you keep doing that over and over and over again. You're going to get Super Mario fucking Run. Right? You're going
to get, and this was where I first noticed it. The first time I ever noticed this hand holding trend that was going on was, I remember, I don't know if you ever played Fable back in the day, but that game was my shit. And then they came out with a couple more, and I never picked them up. And then one day I picked up one of the other ones because they were on clearance. And I was like, cool, I'm going to pick up this Fable game. I remember playing Fable back in the day. This should be fun. And I picked it up, and it's a tutorial at the beginning. I'm like, all right, whatever. I get through the tutorial. It's about 15, 20 minutes. I'm about 45 minutes into this game, and there is like a illuminated path to tell you which way to go to get to the next part of the game. I'm like, fuck this, this is not what I signed up for. And I put the game down. I only played maybe an hour into it and put the game down and never picked it back up again.
And that's why you have so many fucking people like, and this is that's why you have so many people complain about like life shit, you know, so the shit they complain about because for some reason it's become taboo to just like drop people in the fucking woods or like, you know, make people figure shit out. It's like tabooish, you know what I mean? So it's like even if you go back to politics and all that shit, it's like everybody wants to do the easy shit. They just want to talk shit about like, you know, the entertainment part and that stuff. Nobody wants to do that. Wait, I gotta read into the statistics. Wait, I gotta know shit. Even the news, and I'm talking about even the news, like the media wise, right? What is easier, informing your viewer or getting them riled up emotionally?
Exactly.
What do you think is gonna make more money, right?
Yeah.
And what do you think is gonna appeal to more people? I know if you just like talk, oh, can't believe what this guy said. Oh my god.
Well, you look at
yeah.
You look at the amount of money that's being made with this fake news stuff. You know, these guys are making money hand over fist, just saying, "Oh, well, actually, last time I checked, Hillary Clinton is raping children and cutting up their bodies in the basement of a pizzeria." And Donald Trump said that he was going to be a Republican because all Republicans are idiots. And people share the shit out of those things because it tells them, yeah, I knew it. I hate Hillary Clinton. Yeah, I knew it. I hate Donald Trump. So they share, click, 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 ads. And they're making money just lying.
All that is just an evolution of shit that's been going on. You know what I noticed? You know fake news for me was? Fucking, this is one thing I noticed. I was like, this one, I'm not falling for this shit anymore. You know, it's two different things. Remember O.J. Simpson trial?
Right.
I was like, and I see when you hear the verdict, you hear white people go, "Oh fuck," and you hear black people go, "Yeah." I'm like, who the fuck cared, right? And I was like, and I think that's when media is like, "Yo, we can make so much money off this shit," right? And it was like, "Yo, just this, you know, this race shit is awesome." And then the second one was 9/11. 9/11 was like the birth. The 24-hour news cycle.
Oh, geez, yeah.
That was because when I used to watch news, it was like your local news channel 7, whatever, and they used to just do like fucking deadpan. Oh, this happened, blank. Next segment, this happened, blank. Next segment, and then now onto sports, now onto the weather, and you knew what you needed to know, right? Now you have these jackasses talking about shit they're not even qualified to talk about for an hour to 2 hours. They don't tell you stats. They don't tell you statistics. They don't tell you anything. They give it to you like fucking like an easy video game. Like, here's the tutorial. Here's this. This is how you should feel. This is how you should relate. This is how you should act. This is what I think. This is what you think. How about you just fucking tell me what you know, and I'll fucking figure out the rest.
And that's what drives me insane about the whole 24-hour news cycle. I am of the mindset where, like, you see a lot of these people. I watch I and not for information, I should clarify this, but for entertainment. I watch, you know, Fox News clips, I watch CNN clips, I watch MSNBC clips, and you have these people come on, and one thing that I have noticed is Fox News will pick strong Republicans and really stupid Democrats, and MSNBC, CNN, they'll pick strong Democrats and really stupid Republicans. But I am of the mindset where the news should be, you come on, you inform the viewers, you can expound on what that means, but the second that you tell something that is objectively false, you're gone. You're never back on the news again. You're done. Because your job is to inform the American people.
As long as you could apologize. If you could apologize for being wrong the next segment, that's different. You know what I mean? Because
no. Yeah, I don't mean like getting something wrong. Like, that's okay. That happens. But if you go, this is it, and then they go, that's not true. Here's the fact on it, and they go, that's an opinion. This is true. The fuck out of here. You're done.
You know, the thing is, and the thing is, I consider Fox News, CNN, and MSNBC. I just consider news. The only kind of news I consider is all those news that these fucking assholes are going to be using to vote and what they're going to be talking about and all this shit. I mean, it's all horseshit, right? Because what you're talking about is like C-SPAN and PBS, right? Like PBS Frontline. Frontline has good documents. You're talking about like The Economist and shit like that. You know what I mean? Shit that has like stats and shit like that. Because these guys, you know, people, you know, they markets and all that stuff, they make a living off shit like that. So they have to be right, or they have to be informed. You know what I mean? So if you look at industries that have to be informed, you can't get shit wrong. You look at the startup world and shit like that, you cannot get shit wrong. Or even if you look at fitness, well, that's one thing too, because, you know, I talk about health and fitness.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's like, I think it's like a $60 billion industry. People just want, probably everybody listening now has probably a piece of fucking fitness that they never used, or they spent money on, or done something and never used it. They might have used it once or something like that. So like, because everybody wants something easy. That's why it's easy to just put out like anything and people will buy it, and they don't know what the fuck they're buying. They don't know what they're doing. Like, because if you look at all the like the pills and the proteins and all that shit, they're not FDA approved or anything. So people can literally get like fucking sand, put it in there, and say you're gonna fucking you know you're gonna be cured of AIDS or some shit. But like, hey, it's not FDA approved, so you know if you have cancer still, oh, actually, that's just none of my problem, right? So, and this could people make money hand over fist.
Yeah, it's the whole thing about, like, for instance, I don't know if you ever saw this. There's a clip on YouTube. It's an Adam Ruins Everything clip regarding the vitamin industry and how that's built on just complete and total horse shit. You know, you don't need 4,000% of your daily value of vitamin C to be healthy. You need 100%, and that's it. That's why it's considered your daily amount. and and the whole thing about how they say, oh, vitamins will make you healthier if you take a bunch of vitamins, take all the vitamins will cure everything. No. You know, a balanced diet cures a lot of things.
And yet only now they're talking about fake news. Even like Dr. Oz. Remember that fucker Dr. Oz?
Oh, don't get me started on that fuck.
Even he used to say all kinds of crazy shit that was just horse shit. Right?
He still does.
I know, of course he does, right?
And then
people like fake news. The fake news shit is just a fucking buzzword. It's a buzzword they're throwing around now because the media is looking like, because most people get their news from social media, so they're a dying breed, right? So of course, fake news. What can you define that? Define what that means. Shit that's not true. Because if it's shit that's not true or shit that's distorted, all you motherfuckers fit that pattern.
Well, that's that right there. You just hit the nail on the head. That is the difference in I think the definition as far as the cable news circuit is concerned. That is the definition of fake news, is the difference between distortion and outright lies. So they're saying this fake news is the outright lies. What we're doing by distorting it to fit a certain agenda, that's not fake news. That's what they're trying to say to us. Just you know, pay attention. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain is what it comes down to. But yeah, it's frustrating, but whatever. It's the world we live in now, and we adapt and try to continue on and hope that people will one day decide to educate themselves on things.
Yeah, you know, you're forgetting, and anybody's listening, you guys are forgetting the silver lining in the cloud. Fox News chicks don't wear pants. You know, they got to oil up their legs, look pretty. You know, say, hey, you know, this is the news today. And I'm supposed to listen.
Roger Ailes is gone now, so that might be a little bit different later on down the road.
Nah, it's never gonna change. People like that. You know, it's not just Roger Ailes. We all love that.
Oh, it's that red-blooded American there, that red meat that they give us.
Hell's it's like Hitler's wet dream. Like Jesus. A blonde, blue-eyed.
So let's shift back. We got a few more minutes until we're getting ready to wrap this up. So we got a bit off tangent, quite a bit off topic there. But that's what the show's about. It's not strict. It's conversational. You know, a lot of good things come up, and that's what I like about this show. And getting to talk to interesting people such as yourself in this case. I want to shift back to just one more thing. I kind of want to talk about. So you said that you did mostly diet to lose the weight, and quite a bit of weight, it sounds like. But so I want to ask what your plan is going forward from this point forward, because it sounds like you got over the big hump, and now you've got the other side of it, which that a lot of people don't think about, which is the big amount of weight is almost the easier part to lose because it's so much excess, and now you got that small amount of excess left over that you've got to really focus on laser focusing and targeting certain aspects and certain areas of the body and things like that. So I want to kind of go over what your plans are from here, because I am really interested in the concept of your show.
All right, so like in my opinion, it's like a little bit of the obvious, is the opposite, right? So because I was 226, I got down to like 160, so that was about 60 pounds, right? 60, 70 pounds. So to me, that was the easy part. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't have to work out hard or anything like that. You could work out briskly. You know what I mean? You don't have to change your diet up too much because like you can still eat a sandwich and some other shit. Like say you wanted a burger, right?
Right.
Just toast a wheat English muffin, right? Get turkey burger, lettuce, spinach, right? You could put a little bit of honey mustard on there. Shit tastes fantastic, right? If you want fries, just eat sweet potato fries. Still great, right? So if you want the so basically with that's the easy part in my mind, because now if I want to do the hard part is actually like really working out, right? So
Right.
the hard part is actually like going to the gym, like lifting heavy weights and doing stuff like that. So the whole point of the podcast is going to be following me through that process, because you even when you get to that point, then you have to do macronutrients. What what are you doing? How much is your food weigh and calories in completely and out? And what makes it harder for me too, because there's something called like beginner gains, right? So if you've never lifted weights before, right, you have something called beginner gains. So what that is your body it's easier to gain muscle than say somebody who's been training before or doing something along those lines. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that is one of the main things. So what I have to do, because if you've exercised before, stuff like that, you have to go through a cycle. People call it bulk and bulking and cutting. Like I said, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, by the way, anybody listening, because I'm not an expert. I don't know shit. You know what I'm saying? That's the whole point of doing the podcast, right? Because it's like a journey. You're going to learn shit. You're going to do what you got to do. Shit like that. And I'm not a social media guy. I hate social media, but I did like a program like 6 months ago in the city where, they wanted you to network and shit. So I got on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. So, whatever. So I'm going to stay on it for this whole thing. It's StartSimple Health. If anybody's interested, or it's either StartSimple Health or StartSimple H. That's going to be one or the other on thing. I'm going to do Snapchat too, which is, I wasn't really, I was like, ugh, this is not for me, but it's definitely a great way to like also follow the journey. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So if you put in all of those aspects of like, because like for instance, like just losing weight, it wasn't complicated. Just eat lower, don't drink as much. That's it. You don't have to worry count shit. You don't have to figure out anything. Do a brisk walk and you're fine, because you'll see your weight constantly going down, right?
Right.
When you get to a certain point, like you want to just lower your body fat and stuff like that, you have to simultaneously lose fat while building muscle, right?
Right.
You could only do that as a beginner. Because if you're not a beginner, you have to do a bulking cycle and a cutting cycle. Bulking, where you're just gaining a lot of muscle, and then you go down to a cutting, which is a calorie deficient, where you calorie deficit, and then you lose your fat.
Right.
So that's what they call cutting. So me, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go straight into the try to get the newbie gains and try to do both at the same time, which is incredibly difficult. And there's like a lot of science shit and methods behind it, which I read, but I don't know.
Right.
But I just, you know what I mean? But I don't have to know the fucking science behind it. There's a lot of terminology and a lot of shit like that. And I'm just in it. I'm going to start like January 1st. So I'm just in it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's basically what it comes down to. And then for everybody else they have to have their own plan. Like if you're like really overweight, you're going to have your own plan. Like you don't have to start lifting weights, start doing like crazy shit, whatever. Lose some weight, just doing some cardio, like some, because for me, it's going to be like lifting. Because it's also too, like, it's like what kind of workout you're going to do. If you're going to do beginner, they say as a beginner, do compound exercises, because compound exercises is total body exercises, and you have to keep adding on and building. So you have to keep adding on weight and shit like that. That's how you gain the muscles faster. And you can do like a high interval training, high intense interval training, whatever hit. So you don't do like long things of cardio. You just do like short, like burst. So like everything, believe it or not, is like when you that's why I said losing weight is easy, because you don't have to get down to a science. You just eat less, you know what I mean? Just eat less and like whatever, and maybe just adjust your fucking diet. If you want to get like in great shape, you got to do all this fucking bullshit. And that's why most people don't do it, because it's not worth it to them, or it's like really fucking hard. Right. So initially I thought it was gonna be like 8 months, right? And then I saw this video. If anybody looks at it, there's a video on YouTube. It's you can Google like Indian actor transformation. I think his name was Amir Khan. So like he was like 51, and then he went and he was like really fat because he was doing a movie role. Some rich guy, he's a rich actor or whatever over there. He's like Tom Hanks over there. That's what they call him. So then he did like 8 months of working out, and this guy looks like a fucking god, right? Sure, he used steroids and shit like that, right? But that's even with steroids, it's super fucking difficult to do. And I'm thinking like, okay, so he did with steroids, whatever. He has a fitness body. How hard can it be? It's like, no. For you, it's gonna be like 2 years, like a year and a half. I thought it was gonna be like 10 months, and I was gonna stop the podcast after that. I don't give a fuck after that, right? Because I'm a selfish guy. I'm using it for my goals, for motivation, but also to help other people because I like helping people too. But this is gonna keep me on point. Otherwise, I'd be like, who gives a shit? So that's all of it in a nutshell. So like anybody who wants to actually do it, and like, because there's another stat out there too, like 80% of you have an 80% better chance of like getting your goals in shape if you follow somebody, do it with somebody. So trying to get as many people to come with me and follow, that's the whole purpose and goal. They try to get something out of it. Right. At this point, it's a hobby. You know what I mean? So, obviously, if you could do something like that full time, fine. But right now, I don't expect it. I think I got like 1,000 downloads or something like that. I didn't market it at all. Like people are finding it on their own, which is cool.
Yeah.
And I just started recently. So, I mean, for me, I'll just take it slow, see what happens. I'm going to do it regardless of who's listening or not, or how many people are.
Right.
And then I don't know if I'm going to like how hardcore I'm going to go at it and market it, but it all depends. So I'm just going to see how that works.
Yeah. I like the idea. And I know you've got a listener here. I'm going to be following it because it is such an interesting concept. It's something that I don't know that, I've seen like YouTube videos of people who are like, oh, this is my progress, but I don't listen. I don't watch those because I don't have a lot of time to sit down and watch somebody's transformation over the span of years, but I work and I listen to podcasts while I work. So this is a really cool idea that I really dig because it's something that I can actually, engage in and consume. So I really like the idea, and I'm really glad that you reached out to me because it's such a cool idea. And, I hope that my listeners feel the same way. So the last thing that I want to do before we wrap this up is I'm just going to have you, and this will all be in the show notes for this episode as well. Go ahead and let everybody know, where to go to hear the show, to reach out if they want to reach out to communicate with you, where to go for that, and just where to find you.
Okay, I'll make it really quick. And also, so I'm old school. So the podcast is going to be twice a week, guys. It's only 10 minutes each, 10 to 15 minutes each, unless I have a really good, engaging interview. So it's generally going to be 10 minutes each. So it's easy digestible. You can find me at StartSimpleHealth.com. I'm going to put up some links there eventually to my podcast, stuff like that, because it's a work in progress and I'm not highly motivated to put all that shit out there. So StartSimpleHealth.com/iTunes. It'll take you to my iTunes page. StartSimpleHealth.com/SoundCloud. That'll take you there. And obviously StartSimpleHealth.com is there. Snapchat is StartSimpleH. And basically all my shit, I don't even fucking know. So it's going to be StartSimpleHealth or StartSimpleH. That's going to be one of my names on any of the social media platforms.
All right. And this is coming out in a few weeks, so things should be a little bit more concrete around then, and we'll have the links to everything that is up at the time will be in the show notes for the episode, so should be a little bit easier for the listeners to find everything. So I want to thank you for coming on. I had a great time. Technical difficulties be damned. it was good.
Definitely. And guys, I definitely really enjoyed being here. You're definitely a good host. So I appreciate you having me on in the first place because it definitely means a lot to me.
All right, man. Well, hey, thank you so much. You have a good one.
All right, Chris, have a good one, okay?
All right. And stop recording. Stop broadcasting.